Caddis Maximus here, this time with a review of the Harbor Freight Seal Puller 63039. This is looks similar to a Mac one that I've seen, and I do like this design. It is much more robust than traditional seal pullers. These are always pretty distinctive tools because they have the long handle with the two sharp hooks. They're usually stamped out of just pure sheet metal, so the whole tool is just this thin piece of sheet metal, sometimes dipped in plastic. I wasn't able to dig up a couple of my other ones that are like that, but they're usually a cheap tool. You know, I have a Napa one, I think it was like 15 bucks on the shelf, or this one's 8 bucks. They even say it's new. This style is better because it's easier to replace the heads on them, and the whole handle makes it much easier to deal with than one that's just a flat piece of sheet metal, because it kind of wants to rock and pinch in your hand. So I do like this design. Let's go ahead and get this thing open, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I have done a review of this little skill cutter. Just search for, or I'll try to include a link in the description for that. It's the Skill 2352, and there's like some other brands, a Works brand. Gotta be careful of this bulletproof packaging. It is pretty tough packaging they've got in here. Come on now. Holy smokes. When it is a tool that has hooks on it, it really wants to stay in that packaging. So we've got an extra plate. So how these tools work is you'll have some type of seal, and I'll do a little image or a little demonstration. And these are for shaft seals. These are used on cars, or they're engine seals, rear main seals, drive shaft seals, those types of things. And they're a seal that's actually tends to be pretty thick and has a metal backing to it. It'll look something similar to what we got here. These types of seals, these are very common in all sorts of machinery, and especially automotive, anywhere where you really need to keep fluids trapped in. And one common thing, and here's a better look at it, is this is one way where people do that. They screw into the little metal molding that the seal is molded into and try to pry it out. And so this tool is really what this is meant for. So when you have the seal in the bore, you kind of set the tool up on the edge. This may be even a little bit narrow for a diameter this size, but it gets up under the metal edge, and then it allows you to pry a little bit one direction, and then you flip the tool around, you pry it out the other direction, and you're able to work out that seal. But it isn't always perfect because these things are pretty sharp. They're made to kind of bite into the metal, but they can also poke through it and tear through it, especially if the seal is old. That metal can really bind, and then you're in a situation where you're using like pliers to try to twist and tear it. They can be kind of annoying. Now, the big deal with these is, versus so many times people trying to use pry bars, is because the hook is at a 90 degree to the handle, and because it has what would be considered a very large heel. There's a thicker section and a thinner section depending how much space you have. Obviously, the thicker tine is going to be a little bit heavier duty. The thickness of these looks like it's 1/8 of an inch, and it's actually probably closer to 3/16, and that's actually a standard width. It seems pretty good. They actually looks like they have a stainless steel screw and just a slot cut into what is a pretty robust handle. They don't tell you what kind of material it's made out of, but even mild steel, this is like a 1/2 inch handle. And then just a basic acetate final handle. I shouldn't say this is the shank and then this is the handle, but this just gives you a lot of control. And it's actually pretty nice and satisfying, and this shank really is pretty heavy duty, pretty rigid. And looking at these pieces, I would worry more about these tines potentially wanting to bend more than potentially bending the ones on the tips. It's just when the tips get worn, it's kind of interesting that they just give you a quick one to change out, when really you just take a die grinder, and if you have any problem with the tip, you just grind in the little concave there and sharpen it right up. And so the deal with the heel, and before I forget, is it allows it to kind of provide a leverage area on the back side of the seal, and it allows you to grab and lift it up. And so the idea is one end of the hook is on the under edge of the seal, and then the heel is actually on the rim, like so, on the bottom edge of the seal, and so it helps prevent damage to the actual bore that the seal is going into, which is always, with those metal ones, it's a real tight fit. They're always difficult to get in straight. And if you have a scratch, it will leak to that scratch because it's just metal, and you have to always kind of double check and maybe put just a tiny bit of RTV, just a little bit of a wipe, anytime you do have a marred surface in one of those bores. Otherwise, it will want to seep past that. I've made that mistake more than once. When you kind of are starting to get the seal out and then you end up using the tool and it gets right behind the edge of the seal and scratches the bore a little bit, you do have to be careful of that. Anyway, probably talked for too long about something as simple as a seal puller, but my reviews tend to be a little wordy sometimes. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been commenting and all the new subscribers, as well as all my early subscribers who've been supportive all this time. Anyway, until next time, Catus Maximus out.